Welcome to Matters That Matter. In today's episode, we are privileged to have Mr. Sheldon Indanya with us. Mr. Sheldon Indanya is a professional engineer operating in Kenya. He is quite innovative and has come up with a number of innovations that he'll be talking to us about shortly. But more significantly, Mr. Indanya is going to talk to us about the state of engineering in the country. But before we get there, I think it will be necessary for you to tell us why you decided to study engineering.
Thank you for the opportunity. I decided to study engineering because from when I was a young boy, I have liked to create things, take a box, make a car out of it. We also loved playing with things like plasticine, and together with the God-given imagination and the ability to draw well, I think with that I saw engineering was the best bet for me.
Yeah. But then I think maybe just briefly tell us your background. Where did you go to high school and primary, high school, and then university?
Yeah, primary I started at St. Mary's Donholm. Then at class 5 level I went to Hill School Eldoret. I managed to go to Mangu High School. Then eventually after that I joined the University of Nairobi to do engineering.
Now, I think it might be good for us also to explore your expectations at high school and exactly what you found at the university. I'm asking this question because, as you know, I'm a university professor. And I always want to know the expectations of my students and then the reality that they face. And this is very important for us, especially when we are in administration, because we try to find out what we are giving and what we are not giving. Yeah.
I must say, in high school, my picture of engineering was, let's say, what we see in movies. For those who understand things like Iron Man, I had that wild imagination that I'd find the level of sophistication I was expecting is not something.
Big machines.
And that is what I didn't get.
People at work and doing crazy things
and so on. Yeah, making machines all over the place. But I got there and found it was more or less our engineering in our country is book oriented. Because the practical bit, it is there, but it is not as polished as I had expected.
Yeah, it's very important for us to appreciate or to understand what you're saying, because in our universities we always think seriously about what we call continuous improvement. So if, for example, there is something we are not doing right, then we have to change. So in a sense, you're actually saying that much of what we do is actually theory.
Yeah, we do more of theory.
Yes.
And it hurts us to the level where it's more or less we are kind of not taught to make our own things. We are taught to join the system. You go read, get a job. There is that aspect of innovation is still not well polished.
So in other words, we're saying that what we do is we train you to come and maintain machines made from elsewhere and not create your own machines?
Yeah. But you look at these machines, these are things that if you were to be serious, they can actually be designed here and be made here. A good example is with this COVID situation we have. In the previous years, we have been importing hospital beds, but we have come to realize we have people here in this country who can use the local resources we have to make these things, and it will be cheaper and it will be better for us. Because, yeah, I think.
Yeah, but now let's go back to the engineering as a whole. Maybe just shed some light on the branches of engineering and the specific branch within which you operate.
Engineering is wide, and if I were to start naming the branches, it's so wide. So I can say, for me, I focused on mechanical engineering, and I'm a bit versatile because I like working in any area that is encompassing mechanical engineering, as long as I can understand, I can. Because for us, more or less at the university, there is not really that much specialization. You're given the basics on everything, so that when you get to the field, it's now upon you to narrow down on what you want to do.
Okay, but then let's go back to the state of employment in the country.
In the country.
Do we have jobs for engineers in this country?
I must say, most jobs that we call engineering jobs are not engineers' jobs. These are jobs that can actually be done by technicians. And that's where you find a problem where most of our institutions, most companies in Kenya are owned by Indians and foreign people. And it is what we've experienced even in interviews. You go to an interview, you actually realize the guy is telling you, I actually don't really need an engineer here, but if you are ready to work, I can employ you but give you a salary of a technician. Because the job that is there that is being called an engineering job is just a maintenance job.
Now, what Sheldon is talking about is a serious matter in this country. We are investing heavily in STEM subjects, hoping that we will produce employable engineers. But the experience of young engineers is actually making us go back to the drawing board. The question here is, what went wrong? Perhaps turning to you, what may have gone wrong? Because we are talking about and putting emphasis on STEM subjects in this country. What happened now that we have so many engineers in this country who are technically underemployed, so to speak, from what you have said? What is happening?
It's not a matter that you can really find a direct solution, because it is a matter that is encompassing so many people. For example, we have civil engineers in Kenya, and I can tell you, as much as not everyone is that serious, but there are people who I know, like Thika Road.
Yes.
The best case scenario we would have had is the Chinese come, we take our Kenyan engineers and they work together hand in hand.
Yes.
Now, I'm not sure, but for a situation like the Thika Road, the contract is given to the Chinese. Everything is given to them, even the machinery. Kila kitu is given to the Chinese. So you find a situation where, as a country, we are churning out engineers at a very high rate, but we don't trust them to do the job they went to study to. Because you'll find most, even a huge company, it has a problem with its machines or something. They will opt to get somebody from outside to come and do the job. There is no trust in... We have engineers, but they're not trusted to do what they're supposed to do.
Now, that is a really serious matter, and it's a matter that calls upon a national dialogue, because we can't keep on putting money in training engineers, and we are producing them, and we are still putting emphasis on STEM subjects. And then finally we are saying we have so many of them out there, but they don't have a job to do. This is a serious matter. But that aside, we have had issues about the registration of engineers in this country. I know some of our students and some of the graduates of engineering graduates have gone to court to compel the authorities or those who are running the engineers board to register them. What is the problem there?
I also think with such cases, there is, let me call it a miscoordination, because the engineers board should be working hand in hand with the universities directly. So how can you let an institution provide training in a certain field? So somebody goes to school for 5 years, yet when they finish, you come around and say, we don't recognize that field of engineering in our country. So I think it should just be a bit more serious, because the institution should work, because the problem is we also have institutions that at times will introduce training in certain fields of engineering where, when you look at our country, for real, there is no expertise to do that. Now that's where the problem comes in. But to me, the board should overlook and make sure that there's no institution in this country that is teaching or training people in a certain field, and yet there's no expertise, to avoid that wastage of time. Because somebody going to school for 5 years to do a degree course, then eventually you come and tell you it's painful.
It's very painful indeed. But then I think our listeners and viewers out there will want to know some of the things that young engineers are doing with the kind of knowledge they acquired, and that's why I'm going to ask you to tell us some of the innovations you've done, because I've been told that you have innovated in a number of areas, and perhaps it is important for us to share that information with the public.
Yeah, it's true. I have managed to I'm actually starting out as a business on my own. So what I do is, any form of machinery you may need.
Yes.
You come, we sit down, you tell me what you want it to do. Then from there, I design from scratch. I come, I explain the designs to you. If you are satisfied, we go on with the fabrication. So that's what I do. So currently I've been able to make a number of dryers, both electric and ones that use firewood.
Dryers of
vegetables. Fruits dryers, yeah. Because like one client of mine, he actually wants to dry the vegetables and export them. So actually drying is a form of preservation, especially with things like vegetables and fruits. Once you dry, you remove the moisture, it becomes sort of inactive. It's able to stay for a very, very long time. Yeah, so I've done dryers. I've also I've made a drone with a partner of mine called Ian Ireri. I've made quite a number of.
So you've already done a drone?
Yeah. We actually did it as a final year project.
A final year project?
Yeah.
It is functioning, but the only problem here is that we have not yet pushed it to the market. So it's just an invention, so to speak. It
was, because currently I can't say it's working because it's been a long time.
Yes.
But on that front with the drones, you get to learn, because looking at our country, we had to change our outlook, because our country is an agricultural country. So you need to change and be conversant with your market, because you can make something, it's really good, but it cannot be used here. So that's why we actually switched to more of farm. We are an agricultural country, so yeah.
You are into agriculture.
Yeah.
So first you've done the dryer.
I've done the dryers.
Then the drone is part of is a project that you have shaved a bit. Then what else?
Maize sheller.
You have designed a maize sheller.
Designed and fabricated a few. Chaff cutters, also have designed and fabricated a few.
Yes.
Yeah, it's basically anything to do with engineering.
Yes.
Yeah, because even windows and doors, sometimes I get people who want to made windows and doors. Yeah, I've done very many things. It's just that getting them out the top of my head. I've actually designed and made a prototype of a meat dicing machine. See, when you go to the supermarket, then after buying meat, somebody has to cut into small cubes for you. So I have a machine, a prototype of that machine that can dice meat. So I've done quite a number of things. It's just that, yeah, I'm actually on the way to stabilize and actually, yeah.
I like the idea that you are more interested in dealing with machinery that will help Kenyan farmers. You see, the most important thing for us in this country is to find a way of making sure that we are relevant. This, as you say, is an agricultural country, and we need machinery. So I'm very excited about the idea of a dryer, because if you recall, much of what we produce in terms of agricultural products actually go to waste because we don't have any form of preservation. A lot of vegetables are simply, wasted because of that. And therefore, how far have you gone with this dryer? Have you done only one, and you want to find a way of making sure that you produce them in bulk, or what is the plan for this dryer?
I've actually made 2 electric and 3 for fire that are large scale. Now, because I'm starting out, I'm not yet stable enough. So I'm not at that level where I can make machinery and put it in a showroom. So currently I'm working on the basis of the customer. If I get somebody who is interested in a dryer, I make. Because I'm trying to balance the economic. You can't really, I'm not at that point where I can put out money and yeah.
But I think now that you're into agriculture, let me ask you, have you done, because when I go to rural Kenya, one of the things that I find farmers having a problem with is that they don't have shellers. Have you designed any sheller or made one that farmers can use?
Yeah, I have made a couple, but what I do is, like, since COVID started, I've been in Kitale. So I actually go door to door asking and showing this is what I can do. Yeah, that's what I do. Currently, that is where I am.
So,
marketing bit.
So I think it basically means that if we had a national incubation center where you could incubate these ideas and with the necessary support, then you would push these things to the market. And therefore there would be really no reason why you would be going to some of these farms to do the work which a technician can do when you are a qualified engineer. But away from that, I think it might be necessary for you to also share with our listeners about the whole idea of how young engineers are coping within this difficult terrain, so to speak. How are they coping? You're one of them, of course.
Yeah, one of them. It depends on the person. Because if you're comfortable enough to get a job and go somewhere and work, it's a bit fair. But the other problem with the board, I think the way the board for doctors, it protects their people. And from my view, our board has to some level neglected the engineers we have. And it's mixed. There are those who you can get lucky and get a job even in a multinational. So it's mixed, and it actually depends on you as a person and what you want to do.
But even when you get this job as an engineer in any of those organizations, do you really practice what we taught you at the university, or you go and do administration?
Most of it, an engineer in government processal is you'll do more of administration. Now that becomes a problem to somebody who really wants to practice what he has learned, and yeah, that becomes a problem. But I can say there are certain organizations in this country where people are actually employed as engineers and they go do the work of an engineer, but there are not that many.
Yeah, but what you have shared with us is very important. I think you may want to just share with us what you would want to advise the young engineers, what you can tell those in high school who are aspiring to be engineers. Generally, what advice can you give them?
What I tell them is they should be ready to work hard. It's not as easy as people may try to put it. Yeah, because there are a lot of challenges, and you should be really focused, and not just the focus that people talk about, really focused. Because let me not lie, it's not an easy road, it's challenging. It's challenging, and it may take a lot from you. So you have to be ready, and you have to know what you want and what you're doing. Yeah.
But finally, as we come to the end of our discussion, it appears to me that there are very many problems within the engineering sector. One of the things that you have mentioned, which is really disturbing, is that we have trained people, but much of what we have given them is theory.
Yeah.
The second thing that I've gathered from our discussion is that even as you come out of the university, when you get out there, the jobs are not there, because we do not have the necessary industries. We have not set up these industries, and therefore the few that are there only require technicians. And therefore, technically, you are actually saying that an engineer in this country is therefore in a very significant way underemployed. Because even when you go to government, it therefore becomes a matter of an administrator. You are not practicing, you are not innovating, you are not inventing. You are simply pushing papers and signing documents and all that. Now, that is quite damning. How would you want us to reform, and how would you want us to change?
Now, that problem is like a domino effect, and that is a symptom of a bigger problem we have in Kenya. Those problems are going to end once Kenya becomes a manufacturing country. We don't manufacture anything, and that is the biggest problem, because if you're not manufacturing anything, there are no industries. If there are no industries, there's no job for engineers. It is as simple as that, because everything in Kenya is imported. And basically that is why industries like tea, coffee are hurting, because we don't process our things to the final product. Now this in turn brings the issue of middlemen, because we plant coffee, we sell it at a very low price. It goes in inaenda na ndege, it is processed and comes back so expensive. What if we were to do all this processing ourselves and sell the end product? So the main problem is Kenya needs to become a manufacturing company. That is the only type the issue of underemployment of engineers is going to end.
We were talking to Mr. Sheldon Indanya, a professional engineer and a young engineer for that matter, who was sharing with us about the state of engineering in the country. Thank you very much for finding time to talk to us.
Thank you for having me.
And I would like to welcome you again and again to join us so that you can share more about the innovations and the inventions you are making. On behalf of my crew, Neka and Pambi, I would like to invite you to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel.